45 days. You've seen her for 45 days? Mm-hmm. And she comes to you every night. How do you see her? Normally. What does she look like? She has a white veil, grey dress and a crown. And? A crown. What's it like? Gold? Shiny. And where do you see her? Wherever I am. Regardless of where you are at the time. When? At 6 o'clock. Always at 6 o'clock. Mm-hmm. Where does she appear when you're at home? Indoors. Where indoors? Wherever I am. And does she say anything? Yes. What? I ask about the sick. Isn't this all a big lie? What? Me? What do you think? Did you really see something? Yes. Truly. Truly. of June, 1981. That first day will always be the most important in my life. It is the day when St. John of Medjugorje is celebrated, and nobody works. So Ivanka and I decided to get out of the village, to be alone a while, so we could talk about things that were so important to us. I was 15 and she 16. We were walking at the foot of what is now called the Mount of Visions. And at one point, she told me that Our Lady is on the Mount. Just like that, she said it. I went to get the sheep and met Ivanka and Mirjana on the road. I saw a lady in a long grey dress with a white veil holding a child in her arms. It was all very strange because nobody went to that mount, especially not with a tiny baby. Our Lady was already standing there. She didn't suddenly appear. We just saw her, and we didn't know who or what she was. We didn't even cross ourselves at the time. We just didn't know what to do. I also went to meet them that day, and when I was halfway, I saw Milka, Maria's sister, running towards me. "Hurry, Vicka, hurry," she said. Vicka was a bit further away, and I called to her, "Vicka, come and see what we can see." If at that time lots of people had appeared, we would have called all of them to come and see, because we were not sure ourselves. They told me, "Vicka, Our Lady." What Our Lady? I turned round, threw off my slippers and ran away. Vicka was running, scared, saying, "Come and see Our Lady." I turned to my friend and said, "Let her be, she's daft. What's she talking about?" I never could imagine that Our Lady could appear. He too, when he saw, I remember it as if it were today, he was carrying apples. He dropped them all, and, like all brave men, he ran for home. And there I was, standing in the middle of the road. I wasn't looking at them or at the mount, but straight ahead. Dear God, I couldn't go forward or back. There was something stronger within me. A few minutes went by, and my head lifted, not by my own will. Our Lady was beckoning to us to come, but that first night we all ran away. Then I said to Ivanka, "Who knows what we saw?" Then we ran home. My grandma said, "Take a rosary and pray. Leave Our Lady in the heavens where she belongs." I obeyed immediately because I felt so strange. I felt I could have peace only if I did take the rosary and pray. I said nothing to anybody when I came home. That night was a night of much fear. There were so many questions going through my mind. Is this possible? How can it be possible? And I was scared. What if she comes into my room? Where would I run then? The next day I was helping my uncles do some work, and at the time of the appearance I told them, I must go to Podbrdo. Something is pulling me. I simply have to go. A part of you is telling you something, preparing you for something. You feel it in your heart. Something is happening, not by your will, but something nice. On the 25th, I just happened to be at Maria's. Vicka and the others were passing my house and they called on me, but I was in the field with my mum. Maria was home and she went with them. It was then she saw Our Lady and went on seeing her every day. We went with Vicka, and from the road we saw the figure of a woman who was beckoning us with her hand to come to the Mount of Visions. Our Lady was waiting for us, and at the moment we saw her, my legs were cut from under me. I couldn't move. I thought of running away again, but something inside me was stronger. We kind of flew across all those rocks and bushes and came closer to her.
Ali u jednom trenutku, kada smo lebdjeli preko tog kamenja, žbunja koje je bilo ispred nas, prišli smo bliže njoj.
We saw Our Lady in the same place, but without the baby. And on that second day, June the 26th, we came close to her for the first time, and that is how our daily visions began. It was as if some great force carried us up the Mount of Visions. I don't remember how we got there. They saw Our Lady on the mount and ran up. We ran after them, but we could not catch up with them. They all ran. They were all running, filled with huge joy, happiness. I didn't go to see Our Lady, but I felt her within me. I felt this yearning to reach her as soon as possible. And we came to her much quicker than the other people from the village, and they thought it very strange. I felt in my heart that I simply have to go to the mount and meet, to see this person who is calling me, because in my heart I felt tremendous joy and serenity. And when I first came close to Our Lady and saw her clearly with my own eyes, nothing else existed for me anymore. When I came before Our Lady, I thought, this is how you must feel in paradise. Such beauty, such love, such a feeling of being protected, of so much motherly love. At one point I lost consciousness with all that excitement, that indescribable beauty. When you see Our Lady, you feel nothing else. There is nothing else in your head, but only her great love, her goodness, and the incredible joy she brings. I'm not sure whether I'm alive or dead, whether this is really happening to me. All I wanted was to look at her, to hold that lovely feeling I felt when I was with her, because I have never experienced such beauty in all my life. I only wanted it never to stop, to be with her all the time. Swept by all that beauty, I asked her if she could do anything to make other people realize that I am really seeing her. She didn't answer, and Vicka asked me what the time was. It seemed a very odd question to ask at such a time. I looked at my watch and saw it was completely turned haywire. We met them on the way back, and it was then I first saw that watch, or rather the sign that Our Lady had left on Mirjana's watch. The hands were turned back, the watch was out of center, but it was working. When we returned home, after the vision, the police already knew about it, and they took the watch to a watchmaker and demanded that he said it was a hoax. But the watchmaker said that a watch in such a condition would not work, that it was impossible. They kept throwing it against a wall, but nothing happened to it. It stayed just as Our Lady had put it, as a small sign that we did indeed see something, the beginning of the visions.
I taj sat je bio bacan od zidove i sve, ali mu ništa nije bilo. Ostao je kako ga je, ja kažem, Gospa okrenula. Kao jedan mali znak da mi zaista nešto vidi.
I remember people asking us, are you sure that it is Our Lady? Maybe it's something else, some evil force. My grandma told me, you take a glass of holy water. Vitka's grandma gave me the holy water and I took it up. Ivan Dragicevic came first and he knelt and then all the others did the same. I asked, where is Our Lady? Is she standing on this rock or on the grass? And the seers told me she was floating on a cloud of light, not touching the ground.
Oni kažu vidioci, ne, Gospa lebdi na svjetlom oblaku, nije dotakla zemlju.
When she came, we knelt down. I took the holy water and said, if you are Our Lady, stay. If you are not, go. She laughed merrily, and then the drops of holy water, slowly, little by little, went, and suddenly were gone. Our Lady gave us a lovely motherly smile and said, have no fear of me. And she also said, I am the Queen of Peace.
Ja sam kraljica mira.
The third day I went with them, but I saw nothing. That means such was the will of the Lord and of Our Lady. Not for a minute was I envious of them for seeing her, for we were all like one. I felt an immense joy. I believe it is impossible to describe it, and it is really difficult to tell people about it. Ask Our Lady to give us a sign too, so we could see that she is here. Soon all the children said, Our Lady said, blessed are those who do not see, but who still believe. We all wondered where they got it from. They couldn't have heard it before. One of the most powerful experiences from those first days was when I saw her on the third day. She appeared with the cross and for the first time called us to work for peace. There was a big cross behind her. She began to weep and called for peace and friendship between people and between God and people. At that moment, my soul was filled with a great light that cleansed me from the inside, as if a source of light had washed my soul. All you feel is light and peace.
Nije to da to čovjek osjeti kao očima, ne. Osjećaš to unutrini duše, ta svjetlost, milost.
Things began to happen within me from very early on. I felt deep peace and a growing desire to pray. Those 3 days, I didn't notice people. I didn't think about them. I was with Our Lady. And when I was not with her, she was always in my thoughts. When will I see her again? Will I have that joy again? I preferred being alone and praying.
Bila sa njom, da li ću je opet vidjeti, da li ću opet tu sreću doživjeti. I voljela sam da sam sama I da molim.
During those first encounters, Our Lady called us my angels. After I saw Our Lady for the first time, my life changed completely. In my heart, I felt I was no longer that 10-year-old child, happy just to play and be with children. Nothing else mattered anymore except to pray and to be with her, to feel what I felt during her appearances, that joy and peace. I was working in the Chitluk Healthcare Center, and on one of those lovely summer days, somebody told me that several children from Medjugorje had seen Our Lady. We all dismissed it. It was a difficult time, and as the head of the healthcare center, I was being pressurized by the police and secret police, who wanted us as doctors to do something to end it all within 24 hours.
Progonila da liječnici moraju nešto učiniti I sve to završiti u roku 24 sata.
While we were asking the children about what had happened, I remember thinking, these are ordinary village kids of modest education and modest experience of life, to say nothing of science. But it was all very interesting because they were all saying the same things.
A da o znanosti ne govorim, ali sve što su govorili bilo je vrlo interesantno jer su govorili jedinstveno.
Ja sam dugo s njima.
I spent hours and hours with them and I never sensed a lie in them.
Nijednog momenta nisam osjetio u njima laž.
And then I started thinking in my own medical way. If anything had happened, it could have been a kind of hypnosis. We know how children can be influenced. Or maybe it was some extraterrestrial cosmic phenomenon interesting in itself.
Dakle, nešto je hipnotički, neko je od njih djelovao na djecu ili je nekakva vanzemaljska pojava, nekakav kozmički fenomen koji je isto zanimljiv sam po sebi.
When I went into the hospital corridor, there was nobody there. Mothers came and took the other seers away, and they were already on the Mount of Visions. I came through the door of my home, and she was already waiting for me. It is difficult to describe that feeling, the excitement. I was shaking with fear. I knelt before her, and she came ever closer, placed her hand on my head and said, "My sweet child, I am with you. I am your mother. Fear nothing, for I shall protect you. I shall help you." It was heartening, but I was still under huge pressure, really scared.
Ja sam tvoja majka, ne boj se ničega, ja ću te zaštititi, ja ću ti pomoći. I kažem, to je bilo za mene ohrabrujuće, ali ja sam i dalje bio pod tim jednim pritiskom.
June the 24th was the last day of my spiritual practice in Kloster Ivanić, near Zagreb, with the Franciscan nuns. It was Friday, and I knew nothing about it. I was all in bandages, my arm and my leg, and I got out of a car in front of the Mostar hospital when a car stopped. I looked, and there was Father Jozo. Dragica, what happened? Jozo, where have you been? Our Lady has been appearing for 3 nights now. I was rather taken aback, and I concentrated on how to get through so as not to cause panic in the road. We waited for him impatiently. Strange goings on in the parish, and the house chief is not at home. We told him what had happened. He listened carefully, and he spoke to the seers. The answers given by the children were simple, and they did not convey any mystery. Nothing that experience could hide behind. The intensity, the gravity of those conversations with the children, and then the listening and re-listening to the tapes. The more I listened to them, the more it seemed no child would speak like that. And then I thought, perhaps the communists cooked it up. The moment you leave the parish, they are up to something. Just to compromise our faith and our devotion to Our Lady.
Skandale i kompromitiraju našu vjeru, našu pobožnost prema Gospi.
He asked me the same thing 100 times. I told him, I don't know who's worse, you or the communists. I thought to myself, perhaps they gave some drugs to the children.
Možda su dali drogu djeci.
We so hoped he would give us some support, a friendly ear. And when we came to Father Jozo, he was worse than the police. What, Our Lady? What are you talking about?
Dođemo k Jozi da kažemo, a Jozo, ma šta ti je, ma znaš šta, ma kakva policija, ništa, Jozo, naš oduprav, ma šta, kakva Gospa.
Ali kad bi ta dječica došla k meni,
when the children would come to me full of joy, and they felt anxiety in my heart, that was the clash between light and darkness. Many told us we were lying, but in my heart I always knew it was Our Lady. We saw Our Lady appear. First there was light, and from that light she came, smiling. She looked at us. To them, she was alive, real. Only to me, she was not. And that is why it was but a dead word. Because I was dead in my beliefs, without faith. I took it as a mere item of information. I recorded it on cassettes. Later on, it all changed.
Na kazetofon to snimam i zato mi taj kazetofon je isti kao i tog trenutka riječ, mrtav.
It could be they were pressurizing me a bit because I was the smallest, 10 years old. And perhaps they thought they'd get something else out of Jakov. Jakov is a child. Things were becoming very difficult. On one hand, there were the monks who kept questioning us, and on the other, doctors who kept testing us to see whether we were normal or not. They took us to the police and tried to frighten us. We'll bring your dad from Germany. Take his passport. He won't be able to work anymore. I didn't mind. Thank God, if that is the way it has to be, others live, we will too.
Bogu hvala, ako tako treba, vi uzmite slobodno, kako god drugi narod živi, živit ćemo i mi.
Then he took a gun and said, I'll kill you and lock you in prison down in the cellar where those big mice are.
Utraćemo vas dole u ovaj zatvor, ispod u podrumu, dole ima vliki miševa.
But I was never afraid when they took us to the police or when we were in hospital. I always felt Our Lady near me and a great strength within me. I paid that first visit to a psychiatrist, and they're taking us to the police as something that had to be. After all, you cannot expect to see Our Lady and experience such sweetness, and there would be nothing but happiness. That would be possible only in heaven. I had already realized that it was difficult to be a seer. I was afraid how my parents and my brother were going to react, because, although still a child, I did understand that I was pulling them into it with me. One afternoon, Dr. Glamozina and I went to Vicka's home. It was half an hour before the appearance. I'll remember that for the rest of my life. The house was in panic. Vicka and little Jakov were there. Vicka's mother, Zlata, was begging Vicka to tell her the truth. For 100th time, she kept telling her, "Tell me, you know your father is in Germany. They'll banish him, maybe even lock him up."
Da ne ide gore, da neki joj kaže istinu, po stoti put joj govori, ako je nešto reci mi pa znaš da ti je otac u Njemačkoj, da će ga potjerati, možda i zatvoriti.
Prvi dana kad je bilo je stvarno.
Those first days were really difficult. Who could imagine or even dream that my child could experience something like that? I was 15 or 16 years old, carefree, but in my heart I felt something would happen. Something, it came from inside, that feeling, and it pulled so strongly that nothing could stop you.
I onda kad je i točno vuklo, znaš, ali vuklo je nešto toliko jako da te ništa ne bi moglo zaustaviti.
At one point, the children put a rosary in my hand, and then they all dashed up the mount. How arrogant can persons of that age be, thinking they know it all? I thought, it will take me only a few minutes to assess this whole phenomenon. Before Our Lady came, while we were preparing for her appearance, praying, there came a light. The children shouted all together, "There she is!" And they talked to her. And I kept thinking, why isn't this happening in some worldly place like the Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris? When something like this happens in a poor village, it must leave a powerful impression. Why in this rock-bound place in a poor village? And then I got my answer. Our Lady had said, because there are enough people here who believe. It was the enough that disturbed me. because the children themselves were too naive to be able to put it so beautifully.
Djeca su bila prenaivna da bi znala tako lijepo odgovarati na takva pitanja.
At that moment, Dr. Dara went forward on her knees and then stopped.
Onda sam rekla,
I was thinking to myself,
opet sam razmišljala,
if this is some
ako je
kind of
nekakav
cosmic phenomenon, I will feel it. Could I touch
fizičke
it?
prirode, onda ću ja
Vitska
to
asked her, can this woman touch you?
Mogu li ja
Our Lady said,
to
yes,
opipati?
she can. Let her come.
Vitska je pitala Gospu,
And
može
so
li to vaša
I went and
opipati?
tried to touch it.
Gospa rekla,
But that something, which I didn't see, disappeared
ja
in
sam
an
onda
instant.
došla, ja sam to pokušala.
I had a terrible feeling that she disappeared in that direction,
To je u istom
upwards
tom
and to the
trenutku.
right.
Ja sam imala
I
strašan
can't explain
osjećaj
it.
da ona nestala u tom smjeru. Desno gore. Ja to ne znam protumačiti.
She told me she had felt something strange, as if my arm went numb, she said.
Gospa se vraća.
Our Lady is coming back. There she is. All the seers shouted at the same time.
Gospa je došla.
And what did she say? She said,
Sad kaže Gospa,
there have always been the faithful, the unfaithful, and the Judas.
vjernih, nevjernih.
What did that mean? Then I knew. It was me,
Šta to treba znati?
all of it together.
I onda sam znala da sam to ja, sve to zajedno.
Sišli smo dole, djeca su
Then
već
we came down.
razbacana.
The
na
children
nekoj
were already
bili.
scattered on a small wall,
Onako smiju
laughing,
se, dobacuju,
joking and waving,
mašu,
as if nothing had
kao
happened.
da nikad ništa nije bilo.
Ja to ne mogu racionalno.
I have no rational
To se niti ne
explanation for
može
that.
racionalno.
It can't be logically explained.
To
Scientists always seek
znanstvenici
concrete
traže
answers which
konkretne
fit into their
odgovore
pattern of thinking.
koji se uklapaju
This
u
simply
njihova
doesn't
mišljenja.
fit, and it cannot be proved. How can you prove
To se
that
ne
you
može
have had a vision?
dokazati. Kako ćete dokazati da ste imali uvid nekakav? To ne možete dokazati.
Every day we were visited by the police, and one day they brought along social workers, Mica and Mrs. Ljubica from Sarajevo. They took us to a car and said, we'll take a short ride to get out of Medjugorje. But it was something else completely. They were asked to get us out of the way on that day, so visions would begin to be forgotten about.
Da bi nas malo stranili, znaš, taj dan i da bi se to nastavilo dalje, da bi nas izvukli iz ovog mjesta i da bi se to počelo zaboravljati.
At the time of the appearance, we were passing through the village of Cerno, and we asked them to stop because we wanted to kneel and pray. You could feel that an appearance of Our Lady was coming closer, and we told them to stop the car or we would jump out. Then I saw her, the light that was coming from the Mount of Visions. Afterwards I saw that Mrs. Ljubica from Sarajevo was very shaken, and she wouldn't say anything.
Jednostavno nije htjela ništa govoriti.
I came home from work and found a summons from the police to come to the jail to be questioned. I spent the whole night sitting in front of the jail, waiting for Marinko to be released by the police. They accused me of manipulating the children, that I was staging it altogether with the children, that there was no lady or appearances. I have witnesses who were with me on the mount, who saw the light and who saw the cross turning, and the play of the sun. The police said they needed no witnesses. The next day they took me from my work straight to jail for 2 months, just because of what I had said. When Our Lady called on the seers to come to the church, the communists and the police created huge problems. They would not allow the children to go to the church freely. Everywhere was surrounded. If we were at home, the police were around the house. If we went to the mount, police were all around. The children came through vineyards and tobacco fields and hiding from police, and they ran to the church. We came to a field, police were there. So we kept changing the place of the vision every day. We'd hide somewhere, and she always told us where a good place would be. The yard was full. The church was filled with people from nearby places. Mostar, Chitluk, Ljubushko. I began saying the rosary with meditation, and at about 5:30 I sensed people were leaving the church like a river, and soon I was left alone. I got out and saw that all the people had gone to the mount. I returned to the church, filled with sadness, and returned to my prayers, kneeling. I opened my Bible, going through the headings, and I felt uneasy, thinking to myself, it was easy for Moses. He knew you were with him, never leaving him alone. Here, we know nothing. We live in anxiety. We don't know what is on Podbrdo, or what the children are carrying in their hearts.
On je znao da ga ti pratiš, on je znao da ga ne ostavljaš. Ovdje ne znamo ništa. Ovdje smo toliko tiskovi, mi ne znamo što je na pogledu, što je u srcu djece.
Those were the thoughts going through my mind, and the question I was asking God. And then I heard a voice, a human voice, a loud and clear voice. Get out and protect the children. Feeling no fear, and I cannot explain that, I walked out of the church.
Bez ikakva straha, dakle, jednostavno kao iz dijaloga slušam, sada izlazim iz crkve.
We were approaching the parish house, there close to the woods. In front of it, everywhere, was full of police. We rushed into the house. We ran fast. I opened the door and saw the children running fast from the left, and they clung to me like bees. I felt Our Lady's hand, just at the moment when we needed it most. I felt the support in the smile we found in Father Jozo. I recall one courageous woman saying out loud so I could hear her, "My God, our priest, is the only one who doesn't believe." They were the happiest people in the world when I stood up and testified to Our Lady. We were in the church praying. Our Lady appeared during the rosary. The seers were close by me. Jozo was standing here in the middle. I had this feeling, before she appeared, before the light came, that he saw her before we did. We were sure that he saw her too.
On je prije stao nego što smo mi. Tako smo bili bio si siguran da i Fra Jozo znaš vi.
U jednom trenutku kad Gospa dolazi.
At one moment she appeared before the altar and we stopped praying. The prayer fades. Your heart opens up. The eyes of your soul are wide open. She thanked us for the prayer and said, "My dear children, say the rosary every day, together. Pray from your heart." And she called on us to persist.
Gospa poziva da ustrajemo i ona zahvaljuje na molitvi.
Afterwards we asked Jozo, "Did you see?" And he just laughed and said nothing. Since that time, prayer in the church has never stopped to this day. Even the war and the shelling did not stop it. I remember the day when Our Lady told me to tell people to fast. It was quite difficult to get to the church. He was saying to her, "I can't take the message. Can't you see the police?" Like a little boy he was. He reacted as he would towards his mother. He told Our Lady, "I cannot. How am I going to do it?" And she told him, "Pray." He began to pray, and curious to see what results the prayer had, he peeked out. The policeman was sleeping in the shade. He opened the window and ran. Hiding from the police, checkpoints, he got into a car. Changed 6 cars to get to the church, where he got out of the boot and found me at the altar. I pulled at his sleeve, and I remember how Father Jozo had picked me up and placed me on the altar. He was so small, he couldn't even see above the altar. I picked him up and placed him on the altar. Then I saw he was barefoot, and his 2 little feet left an imprint on the altar. To this day I see them there. I'll always remember that, you know. You feel quite special when Father Jozo places you on the altar, and then you tell them to fast. The support you feel, that great joy, because you know you did what Our Lady asked you to do. Are you prepared to fast? And when the voices rang through the church, it seemed to me that the church was coming down. A mighty voice, a plebiscitary vote. We will do everything that she tells us to do. It was the voice of all.
Jedno glasovanje, želimo učiniti sve što Gospa govori. To je bio govor svih.
On the 2nd of August 1981, when the visions began, around 150 people from my parish gathered here, and we prayed the whole rosary. We waited for the Mother of God. We prayed, and the seers told us that she could be touched. Here we formed the lines. The seers stood here. She was before them, about a metre away, and about 50 people touched her. When my turn came, I touched Our Lady, and my arm went numb up to here. I put my arm like this. I felt cold air grip half of my arm. I had always been a believer, but from then on I was even more convinced that something was going on here. Afterwards, Maria Pavlovich ran a few steps and started crying bitterly. "Why are you crying, Maria?" And she tells us that Our Lady left with dirt on her dress. The next day we were all to go to confession and communion. It was so hard. There was heaviness in one's heart, and the question, why? Why did she get dirty? Like children, we didn't know whether it was sin or something else. Then she told us it was sin. I remember how many people were cured of alcoholism that Friday. What the hospital could not do, it happened then, miraculously. People felt the need through fasting. I have to stop sinning. That same day, Our Lady told the children, "Dear children, go to confession every month." And so people began to go to confession every month, to communion, and to observe the Eucharist. I was still a child. I could not understand that this was happening to me, that I could ask Our Lady a question. But then, when I saw all those sick people, I took heart. I saw they really needed help, and I thought that she would not mind if I pleaded for them. As you can see, after 20 years, I am alive and well, and my diagnosis was sarcoma. All my medical documentation can testify to that. I remember people just wouldn't go home. They wanted to pray for everyone individually. The seers stayed behind the altar, kneeling and praying. I prayed. Sometimes it would last until midnight. Vitska told me to pray and to firmly believe that Our Lady would do something for me. After the great sign, she promised he would retain his leg. I remember the 17th of August. Lots of police, helicopters, police dogs, hundreds of soldiers. They all formed a living wall in order to prevent anybody getting close to the church. But Our Lady said, when that happens, you just pray and everything will be all right. I felt a certain restlessness within me and a need to go to Medjugorje. I went, and at the approach to the hamlet of Sivirić, I met a mass of people. "What's going on?" I asked. I was told that the police were not allowing access to the church.
Pitao sam ljude šta je, kazali su organi sigurnosti
People were coming back. The monks had been locked up, and there was to be no mass. It was certainly hard. That morning, the police came at dawn and detained me. You couldn't get to Podbrdo or to church. Police were in the church, in the fields, so finally we hid in the house. Security forces, police, they were all around the parish house. Several of them were searching the parish office and the church. I asked them for the key to the bell tower.
Ja sam pitao organe sigurnosti za ključ od zvonika.
I was stopped by a policeman I knew, and he told me, Vinko, go back, you could get hurt. But I said, I must get to the church to see what's going on. It took me several attempts, but in the end they gave me the key. When I rang the church bells, people flew to the church from all sides. They had all lost hope. They had thought there would be no mass, or that the bells would toll. Police stood at the church door with weapons, but there was no stopping the people. I thought I would celebrate Mass, but in the sacristy I found Father Stanko Dodig already robed, and he walked to the altar to celebrate Mass. The bells tolled again, and people continued to pray that afternoon without me. For a year and a half without me. But I was still with them, and they with me.
Tog popodneva bez mene, tako vodim ipak bez mene, ali sa mnom, ja s njima.
Gospa nam je dala snagu da to shvatimo.
Our Lady gave us the strength to understand and to accept. I saw Father Jozo in jail once, but she told me I am with him. They took away from me everything that any man, any prisoner has. They placed me in solitary confinement, where I could not see whether it was day or night. It was always dark.
Mogućnost kontrolirati dan ili noć, mrak je.
I never asked her why, but in my heart I asked over and over again, why, why? I lost all orientation, didn't know which day it was or what was happening, and then they would take me for questioning.
Koji je dan, ne znam šta se događa. Mislim, jedna bi me odvodili na ta saslušanja.
I know there must have been terrible moments, but I am sure that Our Lady was always with him. They had taken everything from me. Absolutely everything. And then I had the rosary again. That is something I do not understand to this day. It was something so powerful, so merciful. I just found it in my pocket, in my hands. When I thought I had nothing, that they had taken everything from me, I had it all. I discovered everything. There was not a house where prayers were not being said for Father Jozo. In church, special prayers were being said, asking God to give him strength to survive, to return to us. I feel that when a person accepts the rosary, it provides an answer. When he takes it in his heart, he's chosen the road. I take it as a great gift and mercy. And I feel great love for it, and for Our Lady's message, pray every day, pray from your heart. Despite all the hardship and suffering we went through, she always brought hope. Nothing was too difficult for me in those times. I was prepared to give my life.
Ja sam bio spreman život svoj dati za sve.
As soon as I returned to Sarajevo and went back to school, I was expelled. Every morning they came for me from the Secretariat of Interior Affairs of Bosnia and Herzegovina. And I never knew when I would come back home, whether I would ever come back. I was scared, really scared, although I tried not to show it. I thought to myself, I can do this. I was chosen. And if I die, it will be God's will.
Mislila sam to ću ja podnijeti, mogu ja to, jer sam izabrana, a ako i umrem, to je Božja volja.
I went to the mount with the seers one night, and we saw the light. My eyes were closed, my head bowed. At one moment I heard a voice saying, "Open your eyes and look to the sky." I did, and saw the heavens open and a light coming towards us. I said, "See the light." And I heard several voices behind me, "See the light." That was something that cannot be described. Not the color or glow or shape. It was something that could only come from heaven. The people from the hamlet of Čilić saw the light and came to us and found us in prayer. They saw the light, and in that light our whole group. There was a ban on going to the mount. Police were guarding it. But that evening there were no police. God knows how or why. That was probably the first pilgrimage to Medjugorje. We walked about a bit, looked around and watched the sun. It was so unusual. The sun was sort of twinkling, strange. I couldn't look into it without my eyes watering. The sun was moving. I got out and saw people kneeling. My God, what now? I looked towards the mount and saw what they had seen. The mount awash in light. You couldn't see the cross, but you could see the Virgin. Then the cross again appeared on the mount. And beneath it the message, peace. The people standing in front of their homes saw the same things as we who stood in front of the church. All of a sudden, I saw peace written in golden letters on the Mount of Visions. It stayed there for 3 minutes and then moved slowly towards Križevac. It remained there for 3 or 4 minutes and then moved towards the church, where it stopped between 2 tall bell towers. I saw big gold letters, peace. Everybody saw it. We were working in the field, and I saw a cross. Then it disappeared, and there was whiteness, like some veil swaying. We knelt and prayed. Instead of a cross, I saw the figure of Our Lady. Afterwards, she floated towards the west. Her image disappeared, and the cross began to grow again. There was whiteness across the whole cross, concealing it from view. As usual, I was praying before the cross, my eyes closed. I opened my eyes and the cross was gone. I can't describe how I felt. It was a shock. After all, it was a 10-meter tall cross, and how could it suddenly disappear? I rubbed my eyes, but it wasn't there. I felt as if in another world, felt some strange flow, like a breeze. I looked up and saw the cross turning. How can it be turning? I went into the house, came back a few seconds later, and the cross was turning again. We all saw the flame on the mount. I saw hands clasped together, many hands around the flame. It was brighter than normal fire, without smoke. After a few minutes it just went out. But if a match burns out, there's ash. Here, there was no ash. I believe that it was Our Lady giving them signs so they would realize they were truly seeing her. There was such great pressure from the police, but the parishioners remained faithful to Our Lady. They helped us, allowing us to spread her messages. They helped the pilgrims who came here. I think the parishioners deserve a huge and heartfelt thank you. Medjugorje was open to Our Lady's messages, which is why she was later to say, "I chose this parish." Then all the other people turned to us, not in admiration, but to look for her in our midst. The Medjugorje parish made tremendous sacrifices. They withstood all the persecutions and intolerance, the slandering, and protected Our Lady against injustice.
Otrpjela sve progone I sve nepravde I sve napade I sve klevete da ne nanese nepravdu kraljici mira.
Our Lady promised to leave a visible trail in the sight of the visions, a trail that will be visible, permanent and indestructible, a trail forever, especially for those who are far from God, and as proof of her presence on earth over such a long period. I was an agnostic when it all happened, but I have changed completely. I had that overpowering feeling of metamorphosis. Yes, I am still me, my cells are the same, but in fact everything changed. I am a completely new person. I felt like a vessel which is constantly being filled, in a spiritual sense. Many studying the phenomenon of Medjugorje have asked themselves, what is its role to happen in the new millennium just beginning? The world is being torn apart by all manner of crises. Only spiritual cleansing can rescue us from that, a spiritual awakening, a spiritual revolution. And this is where Our Lady arrives with her motherly love. For it is only motherly love coming for 20 years and patiently teaching her children on earth that only through change, by taking an evolutionary spiritual leap, can man, indeed entire humanity, be taken forward.
Jedan evolucijski, duhovni skok, on može izvući cijelo čovječanstvo naprijed.
All the messages Our Lady gave us throughout these 20 years, messages of peace, of prayer, conversion, of fasting and penitence, of steadfast faith, of love and hope, all these are the words of the gospel. And it is through those messages that Our Lady gives hope to the world. If we embrace the gospel, the living word, we can expect and hope for the revival of the world, its spiritual revival.
Tu živu riječ možemo očekivati, možemo se nadati jednoj obnovi svijeta, duhovnoj obnovi svijeta, duhovnoj obnovi čovječanstva.
A Medjugorje
Medjugorje is offering man the opportunity to return to God through prayer, through confession, through reconciliation with God and therefore with his fellow man.
Preko pomirenja s Bogom, a time znači I pomirenja s bratom čovjekom.
I believe that Our Lady wants every person to undergo such conversion, and that is why this path of conversion, of inner transformation, is the most difficult and the most beautiful journey that one can possibly take.